There are rumors spreading right now that the United States of America is in fact initiating a war in the Middle East just to postpone or to in some way affect the election process, the presidential election between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump inside of our country. There are also rumors spreading that we will see some sort of civil unrest inside the USA that will point fingers toward Russia, toward China, or even toward Iran in the coming months. Now, we do expect, as we were reporting on the FBI warnings of a severe cyber attack inside the USA, that they will start pointing fingers at the Middle East and toward Russia especially. So what we have to do is just kind of batten down the hatches, get prepared, and watch. The knot is tightening, according to one open source military strategist. He said this knot is tightening in the Middle East. There will be a massive amount of innocent lives that are lost. There will be hostage situations that become clearly visible in social media. They say it is clear to everyone. A full-scale war is the only way to move forward with United States domination. Now, Intel, the company that brings you processors, they're cutting 15 to 20% of their workforce, 18,000 employees. Their shares are taking tumbles. We're also starting to see different companies across the country letting go lots of people. Unemployment's up to almost 100,000 people in a 30-day period. What that means is that a lot of people coming into the second half of 2024 are going to be in worse shape than they were at the beginning. And with inflation so high and all the other problems that we are experiencing, this is a recipe for civil violence. Snapchat, they were dropping again as they saw this quarter's earning results start to look a little bit scarier than ever. Amazon, same situation. Deutsche Bank, they're trying to offload up to $1.5 billion in U.S. commercial property loans. We're seeing unemployment go up at the same time we see evictions increase. People's cars are being repossessed. We also have a whole bunch of businesses that are closing down with bankruptcies and foreclosures. The response to the immediate challenge will be driven by the far-right hatred. This is shared intelligence and facial recognition technology that they say will be used as a preventative measure. They say, let me say to you, a large social media company and those that run them will push for violent disorder. They will whip up online rhetoric and they will use crime to take place in your city. They say, just as we have warned, we are starting to see people tighten their grip on reality in the USA. Russian media, they've reported that the last oil refinery that caught fire in Russia was a result of American-led intervention. Now, when you start seeing them actually point the fingers, you know, America came over here, Russians came over here and they lit the food warehouses on fire, maybe the chicken warehouses. They did all these different things, but nobody specifically said it was Russia. There was a lot of talk among the CIA, the FBI, different information outlets that it's probably Russian operatives because we, of course, have our own operatives operating inside of Russian territory. They throw on a Ukrainian mask. They wear some Ukrainian flags. They get over there. They start setting fire to places, trailing the trains that are over there, taking them off the tracks. They're doing all of these things. So, of course, Russia is doing them here in our country. Now we just have the obvious pointing of fingers. And when that happens, you start to see the people say, well, then we have to do something about it. And that's when you see the calls for open warfare. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration has said that the meat glue, can you believe they call something meat glue? The meat glue that they are putting in your food is now safe to eat. This is following reports that it has been banned in other countries. It's called transglutaminase, otherwise known as meat glue. It is an enzyme that increases the volume of food by binding together proteins in meat. This forms larger pieces. It improves the texture of some food. It has been banned in use in other countries since 2020. It's been banned in the European Union since 2010. But here in the good old US of A, they say it's perfectly fine for you to eat this. It was approved for use in foods that are sold in the USA, mainly in meat, dairy, and seafood products. You know, I can think of a couple of things. You know, artificial crab. Well, how do you think they're binding these meat proteins together? The chicken nuggets inside of Tyson, which Tyson's laying off another like 15% of their workforce. They're having great profits. They're laying off more people. They're using artificial intelligence. They're automating everyone's jobs. They're going to make even more money, but they're telling you we need to raise prices again because we have problems. How do you think they get all these meat slurry concoctions to stick together? Now, according to a report from international outlets, they say the State Agricultural Safety Agency and the public health watchdogs are reviewing instances in which this substance in food supply has been causing massive health detriments to the people who are eating them. So I don't know. I'm not here to tell you don't enjoy your stuck together artificial crab. No, what I'm telling you is just make sure you offset whatever poison they're trying to feed us with good, natural, wholesome, organic food. Russia has said that a full-scale war will be the only way for peace moving forward with the United States. This is kind of scary news because if they understand that we're going to have to go to war with them, then we have no choice but to go to war with them. There won't be anything else happening. The United Kingdom is deploying a new series of their massive surveillance program. They say that this will tackle violent disorder and mobile thuggery. Okay, so mobile thuggery. What they mean by that, and you probably don't hear this on any other channel or any other outlet. In Brazil and Venezuela and some South American countries, they found out real quick that the criminal element, the violent gang elements, they could roll up two guys, one riding B, and if you've ever rode a motorcycle, you know what riding B is. One's riding B on the back of a bike. They ride up to somebody real quick. The guy on the back is already gunned up and he's ready. He hops off, points a gun in someone's face, takes their phone, their purse, their bags, their whatever, then gets back on the bike and goes off. By the time the person even places the 911 call, that bike is so far out of there, and they're probably in the back of a closed trailer because all they have to do is turn a couple of corners, find out there's no cameras in the area, get in the back of a trailer, or if there are cameras, have a stolen trailer. They don't care. They're criminals. They get in the back, close it up, and start driving away. So by the time the cops are even called, by the time the 911 call is even placed and finalized, they're already covered up in a vehicle, can't be found, and far away. This is what they're calling mobile thuggery. What they've done, though, is they've imported the third world, and they've made it a part of Europe, and they've made it a part of America, and they've made it a part of all these different countries who don't have a closed down nationalism viewpoint on their nation. You see, in some countries, they say, hell no, we don't want that garbage happening here, and we're going to make sure that we have just policing, just authority. We're going to have just procedures to make sure that that type of thing doesn't happen in a moral way. And they don't allow it. But here in America, they're like, you know what? We can't judge. Just let MS-13 in. Just let Trans de Aragua in. Just go ahead and let them, because we can't say that these guys with the MS-13 tats and the Trans de Aragua tats and all this, we can't say that they're really part of that. Maybe, maybe they're just expressing themselves in the way that we should let them. And so we import all of these problems, and now they're starting to affect us. And that's why you've got to start watching out for things like when you're putting your groceries away. Could you ever believe a future where you have to have two people go into the grocery store? One of them has to be on guard the entire time. Now, some people might say, well, that's just how men and women should be in a relationship, or how, you're hanging out with the bros, or the girls should work together, whatever you want to say. And yes, you're right. One person should always be in a position of the ability to self-defend. But now you have to run a grocery store trip like it's some sort of AO, your area of operation, like it's some sort of mission, and one person has to watch while the other person puts their groceries away in the trunk. And then they have to get out of the car and watch while it gets walked up to the house. Here in America, they want your blinders on so deep that they don't want you to see this encroaching level of criminality, and they don't want you to even consider what will happen if it happens to you. Your city should always feel safe, even though it's not. Your police should always arrive on time before the crime, even though they're just armed historians. It means they come after the fact, they write things down, and they use a weapon if they need to. These fallacies, these falsities are a part of your life. So intelligence indicators show that Iran is going to begin launching hundreds of ballistic missiles and drones at Israel when a larger strike begins to take place. They say there will be a saturation that will draw blood in the region. U.S. forces, now we have, 40,000 of our people over there right now? 40,000 people. And they were like, oh, we're not actively engaged in any, wars right now. Then why do we have 40,000 troops over in the Middle East? Why do we have our own mercs working over with Ukrainians in Russia? We are actively engaged in war. They're just not going to call it a large combat operation like they used to in yesteryear. They found out that when good old Bushy and Obama did their things, the people didn't really like that. And so if they just call it well, who else does this? Is it just a special military operation? Doesn't that sound familiar? Vladimir Putin decided to do that in Ukraine, even though we all know it's a war. It's a special military operation, and then you don't need certain levels of approval. You don't need anything. We're just backing up our allies or making sure that we're keeping this world safe from terrorism. That's the new war. So you might never ever see it printed on a newspaper, blasted across a news website that we have officially entered into World War III. But what you will see is things getting worse. And so since we prepare for the worst but hope for the best, then living the life of a prepper or a survivalist or an independent individual, that's your future. Guys, thank you for being here with us. Full Spectrum Survival only on YouTube. Make sure you check back tomorrow for more information from around the world and from your area. From my family to yours, please stay safe and keep watch.